Race 4 of the BMW IBSF Women's MonoBob World Cup, the first MonoBob World Cup campaign in history. And we are at Winterberg in Germany in the Hochsauerland, ready for the second and deciding heat with our athletes ready at the top of the track. Hello everybody, welcome back. Martin Haven, and delighted again to have with me Anne van Nieuwenhuis of Belgium, ready to look at the action. And again, we talked about this before. This is a track where so many young sliders really experience ice for the first time. It's quite benign. And the classic is easy to get down, hard to get down fast. Our top three, though, they know this track very well indeed.
Kaylee's been around for like what feels like a century, and she just knows how to drive a monobob sled. She's the Olympic monobob champion, and she knows every trick. She made little mistakes on her first run, so she will be looking to clean that up. She's in third place, only had the 7th fastest speed, which is not her usual. As you can see on the screen, she was not quite happy with that. She'll be looking to clean that up. And then in second place is Lisa Buchwitz. She outstarted everyone like she's been doing all season. She's a very fast pusher, has been in the lead for almost the entire run, and just behind Melanie Hassler, who's in first place by 0.03 of a second. So she is looking to get her first win in a World Cup in the monobob. And then in the lead for the first time, Melanie Hassler of Switzerland. She has been getting a lot of 4th places in the North American part of the season. She had a really clean run, started with the 8th fastest push time, drove herself into first place, 2nd highest speed. Very nice and clean run. So she'll need to repeat that to keep off the ones who are challenging her.
And actually that's half of the drama of the second runs here, always in Winterberg, is who gives away the time, because this is her race to lose now. And likewise, Lisa Buchwitz just 300s behind. Look at Kaylee, only 100th ahead of the Olympic bobsleigh champion Lara Nolte, so the clash of the two Olympic titans there for the bronze. But again, you can give away 15, 20 hundredths in the blink of an eye here. So there's nothing that is set in stone. And our 15 sleds will go in reverse order of their first heat performance. So Melanie Hassler will be seeing the changing room empty around her. And that's something different from her. If you've not been in that position, if you've not been last to go, that brings pressure. So
she was in the lead of one of the American two women races, yeah. So she has had this feeling she hadn't been able to bring it home yet. Yeah. So that's going to be interesting to see exactly. So as you can see along this part of the track, it's quite a steep start into curve 0, but then it flattens out. This curve 1, 2, 3 is very flat. You want to be very quiet, do minimal steering, try to keep it in the middle of the track and carry all the speed you have. Here we have a tricky part of the track. We've seen a lot of mistakes there in the monobob today, 4 to 5, and then going out of 6 into Kreisel. Seen quite some taps and skids there, and then Kreisel is where it starts to pick up speed, going into curve 8, and then it really accelerates downhill. Big curve 9, some action there earlier before, and then big turn 11 sets you up for the labyrinth where you really get the top speed, highest speed there, climbing up curve 14, a big left-hander, and there on the finish line. Sometimes a little action there as well, but nothing so major so far today. And then there's a long time to get your brakes on. Yes. For these pilots. Yeah, plenty of time to get it all slowed down, which doesn't always stop sleds coming all the way up the outram. Hello, Lamindine. Hello also to Alana Myers-Taylor. I'd be surprised if she's not awake at some ungodly hour in the US, because she's not competing this year, because she has just recently given birth to her second child with husband Nick Taylor. So Alana back on single mom duty. Nick's on the road coaching. So they're ready to build a Taylor Foreman.
Yeah, there you go. Alana and Nick might be quite long in the tooth by the time that comes around, but age is not necessarily the discriminating factor here. There you see Kaylee Humphries. She's the least youthful athlete in the field, at least in terms of birthdays, but just as competitive as everybody else. And again, still you know, she's got the driving skills. She may not necessarily be the fastest pusher anymore, but she's still
very
really
much in the
beat.
mix,
Yes,
and brings a lot of
is.
experience. But then compared to some of the younger athletes, to youth Olympians who are here of the 2020 Youth Olympic Games in St. Moritz, Victoria Cernanska and Georgeta Popescu, who are making their World Cup debut in the monobob now.
Yeah, fantastic to see them. Great to see young nations coming in as well. Slovakia and Romania. Romania particularly has had a long history in bobsledding, but again, bringing new youth athletes in. And they will be among our first sliders as we go in reverse order for this second heat.
And first off the hill in the second heat is Riley Compton of the USA.
Yeah, Riley Compton from the US Marine Corps. And Riley, 25 years old, first season in World Cup. She's raced only predominantly in North America, has been here once. 6:32 getaway for her, and she had 6:39 in the first heat.
Nice improvement there, a quiet curve 1 to 2, which is a lot better than she did in her first run. She's already picking up on her mistakes, and every run now is just an opportunity to learn and to put it into the next one. Get the feedback from the coaches, get your own tactile feedback from what you felt and saw in your run, trying to put it into a better run the second heat.
You get 6 training runs in bobsled, and you have to split them between monobob and the 2-seat sled. You have to do at least 2.
High there.
Whoa.
Just barely takes it off at the end.
So at least 2 runs in each sled to get it qualified for the race. So
big tap between 12 and 13. She pushed her away and had to have late height in the end of 13.
Rocking and rolling. Well, 3400s faster than her first run. Big smile from Brian Scheimer. And that was as close as Victoria Cernanska got to having a crash there. The sled just about stayed upright.
Yeah. You could see her line in curve 9 was not a one-wave line. It usually really had the up and down pressures, and then just the end pressure took her up in the exit. So here we can see her coming out of curve 8. Just touches the wall, going into 9, and then a hard steer, which pushes her up there in the middle, brings her down too soon, and then the end pressure takes you up. Just has a little bit of the woodwork.
Yep.
You can see some of it spraying off. But then luckily, curve 10 takes her runners again, and then she gets pushed away going into 11 as well. And there the late height coming out of the labyrinths, pushing her away into 14.
Yeah, a bit of a scramble for Riley Compton, but she moves into the leader's box. Next up is one of the 2 Youth Olympian podium finishers, Georgeta Popescu of Romania, the Youth Olympic gold medalist in St. Moritz 2020. And of course, 2023 World Championships will be in St. Moritz for bobsleigh and skeleton in just 3 weeks' time. And for the first time, Bob will join the World Championships as well. Really excited to see that. 6:33 getaway, fraction slower than her first.
Yeah, no improvement in her start as comparison to Riley, who did a 700 improvement in the second heat.
A slight advantage when you've come from Youth Olympics, because they started in monobob. It was not a 2-seat bobsled competition, so her very first experiences were driving these sleds, but again, the back walking around behind her.
It is very different than compared to the women who have been in the sport for a longer time, who started driving in a 2-man sled and had to adjust to a monobob. She started in the monobob and will have to adjust her driving in a 2-man compared to, this is a much better exit out of curve 9 than she had in the first heat. So
she sits a long way forward in the sled, and that's why the back of the sled is a lot looser maybe than some of the others.
And it also has a lot. Ooh, and there, hard drive off the curve. She didn't want to have the victory roll there. That's a lot of sideways sliding. But it also compares to your body weight. So if you're a lighter athlete, you have to put more weight in your sled, like with there's solid blocks of lead or weighted plates. If you bring more weight yourself as an athlete, you can put in less of these plates. But it really changes how this sled reacts on the ice. And here we see her entrance into curve 9. Just has this little bump on the take-on. A lot of steering in the beginning, but she controls the middle a lot better, which gave her the nicer exit. And here we can see her middle low lines in curve 11, climbing near the end, and then all of the sideways energy bumping out of the finish curve.
Steer out of the Zeal curve, corner 14, a really big steer. See, the runners were completely crossed up. So it is Georgeta Popescu of Romania who leads the race, and Victoria Cernanska, who took the silver medal in the Youth Olympic Games, is next up. Like Georgeta, just 20 years old, making her World Cup debut. Raced in the North America's Cup a week ahead of the World Cup schedule, and in 4 races took 3 gold medals in the MonoBob.
Yeah, and she was driving rented sled, so she's finally back in her normal sled, the sled she is used to. But I think it's very good for a young athlete to learn how to drive different sled, different setups.
Yeah, without that sort of slight comfort blanket of you know it's yours as well, and on tracks you're not familiar with. Yeah, a very big mind-expanding 3 weeks, I would imagine.
Very good sliding position, really low in her sled, and little slide long on curve 4, and it takes her into a skid going into curve 5, but that's a really nice exit of 6 going into Kreisel. So it's really far back, very low.
Yeah, long way back and very low in the sled. Very different indeed from Georgeta Popescu.
Nice entrance there, but a little wavy, and then just catches the pressure in the end.
Not quite as dramatic as in the first heat, but the same mistake.
And there, the little touch going uphill into curve 14. But she's still quite comfortably in the lead and really dips her head before she makes it to the finish line.
Well, 60.71, exactly the same downtime as the lady you just saw, Georgeta Popescu.
So she keeps her lead.
Yeah, the first heat advantage. And that's the deal, of course, is that both heats count. It's your total time for the 2 runs, or in the Worlds and the Olympics, all 4 runs. Consistency as well as just one good run are really important.
Yeah, so here she takes it down too soon and gets that end pressure.
So when you're in that corner, why are they steering down so early? Are they worried that they're just going to hang it up too late and they're misjudging that?
It really has a lot to do with the entrance of that curve. You just want to stay in one line. Normally, when you don't do any steering, it would pick you up in the middle. So you want to do a little steer to keep you on that middle line. But if you do too much, it just already comes down too soon, and then the end pressure takes you up again. But it's a really fine line, especially in these monos, because they're so reactive, so... it's really touchy, and you don't want to be doing too much, because that's the result you get when you do too much there.
Yeah. Okay, next up is the USA's Nicole Vogt, 35 years of age, hugely experienced bobsleigh driver, relative, like everybody is, newcomer to MonoBob. And her advantage over Victoria Cernanska, our current leader, just 0.06 of a second. You could give that away there in the 0 curve. She dealt with that pretty cleanly.
6:39, same start as she had in the first heat. Quiet to curve 2.
Yeah, same start time as Cernanska, so 0.06 out to 0.09 of a second.
She takes along the speed, and there just avoids that expansion joint, that tap going into curve 4. Then has the hit before curve 6, controls it well, but it has cost her some speed. 3rd speed going into Kreisel.
She only had 1200s in the bank. That'll be down into low single digits. 300s remaining. She's got to be really clean now.
But that's a really nice curve 9. Perfectly used curve 10 to push her early into 11. And nice transitions in the labyrinths. Touches there, but highest speed again. She had one of the highest speed in the first heat as well.
Big steer off the final corner, so it's goodbye from Victoria Cernanska and from Brian Scheimer, and into the leader's box goes Nicole Vogt. So 60.67, an improvement on her first heat as well. Track holding up and still producing speed. They will have spritzed the track between the runs, which is a spray of cold water that kind of fills in some of the nooks and crannies anyway.
And here you can see her load. She jumps in one step, doesn't take the little step on the platform, which is just behind the seat of the MonoBob pilots.
Yeah, where the brake woman would normally be.
Yeah, and there we see the exit of curve 13. Just a slight touch going into 14. Little bit of back lift there going into 14. Going uphill there.
So Nicole Vogt into the lead. First 4 sleds down in our field of 15 monobobs here in Winterberg. And next up is Cynthia Appiah. So an all North American battle at the moment, but Cynthia with a handy lead over Nicole. Nearly 0.2 of a second.
Didn't have the best run. She had the second fastest start time, but lost some speed along the way.
Let's see what she's got. 5.88 getaway, same as her first start. She is a very big starter. Now, the expansion joint in corner 4 didn't do her too well, but she just kind of made mistakes at just about every opportunity in the first heat.
And so far, it's been looking a lot better.
Yeah. Interesting that German coach Matthias Herpfner videoing Cynthia. It's his first sled he's videoed as they've come past.
Okay, and that slide touch again, 4 to 5, but nothing big. Little high there going into Kreisel.
Best speed in the Kreisel. Cynthia Appiah extending her lead.
She's still up quite high in that sled, so I think she can definitely find some pace there. Touches the inside wall of 11, pushing her away of the entrance.
Yeah.
But a good-looking labyrinth. Slight parallel touch going uphill there. Not the highest speed, but she has a big lead.
Yeah.
And
Across
really
the line.
improves
Yeah,
on her.
59.92. So finds over 0.3 of a second.
And that would have put her into 6th place after the first heat, so really improves on
Which is
her.
kind of where she would have expected to be at worst, really. Although this was not a good track for her. It wasn't a bad track for her last year. She got a bronze medal in December 21 and a 5th place in January 22.
You can see quite some of curve 8, late exit there, and touches the inside wall going into 9. Little pressure, and that puts her into the intake of curve 11, puts her away of 11, and just it all means that you have to do more work into the curve to get back on the good line, and more driving is just a slower.
All right, and that's all part of why we're seeing new athletes here, is that the World Championships will be in Winterberg in 2024 after St. Moritz this season. Cynthia Appiah is our leader. First 5 sleds down, 10 remaining. And then after all the rain yesterday, looks like a relatively dry day today. And that means the track remains more consistent as well.
Yeah, definitely. And we only have 15 sleds, so for the women's field, it does make a difference if you're the first sled off or the last sled off, but it's only 15 sleds. If you would have 25 or 30 sleds, it makes a lot of difference. Yeah. But in these conditions, it should be fairly consistent for everyone.
And of course, in the reverse order in which they go, that means if the track deteriorates, then the leader has less advantage, or perhaps running at a deficit, so or on a slightly slower track, and that always helps. What we find at this track, which is very small gaps between most of the sleds. So we've just seen Cynthia Appiah come down. Next at the top of the track is Wai Ming Ming. Wai was just 200s quicker than Cynthia, and only 500s quicker than her was her teammate Ying Qing. And then we've got, you know, it's less than 1/10 of a second between any of the remaining sleds in the field, and in some cases, only barely in single digits, the gap. So lots of potential change. We haven't actually seen anybody make really big mistakes and give away a spot yet, which is quite unusual.
But this is the trend of the track. It's not the hardest track in the world. It has some technical difficulties. Curve 9 is quite technical. These labyrinths, you need to be on the money. But it's not the hardest track, and it's fairly consistent with your start time to downtime. Yeah. If you don't make any big mistakes, you can just carry the speed along the track.
Yeah. And that's the problem. Giving the time away is always the issue in the second heat. Trying to find it is, there are lots of things you can look at your video and clean up, but actually being able to do it is very different. So 5 sleds down, 10 still to go here in Winterberg. Top of the track, second heat, race 4 of the BMW IBSF Women's Monobob World Cup. 5 sleds completing their second heat. And our next contender is Wai Ming Ming of China. She was 10th in the first heat, has the enormous margin of 200ths of a second in hand over our current leader, Canada's Cynthia Appiah. Martin Haven and Anne van Nieuwenhuis watching the action.
6:01 and a big idiot there on the take-on of curve 0, and it will rob her of some speed that she tried so hard to put into the sled with her start.
Yeah, 6 flat in the first heat, 6:01 in the second, but already dropping behind Appia.
Yeah, it's looking nice, 1 to 2 now, a little early there, touching the wall on 4, avoids the tap there, nice entrance into 5. Good transition to 6. But the speed is just not there. That small mistake there in the beginning, the take-on of curve 0, it just robbed her of all the speed, and she's bleeding time along the way.
Yeah, currently still in second position on the splits because Nicole Vogt, who's second on the leaderboard, 1.3 seconds behind Cynthia Appia. Half a second back. She's losing a lot of time here, isn't she?
Yeah, that hit on the take-on is just, it kills all your speed there.
So Appia picks up a scalp, and actually in the private battle between Wai Mingming and her teammate Ying Qing, I think Wai has just scored a bit of an own goal there, unless Ying really makes some big mistakes.
She's also the first athlete to not improve on her time of the first heat, so that mistake in curve 0, it kills your run. You just want to get out of the sled and not continue and try again.
She actually hit that as she was trying to steer past it, and that's... Yeah, that never really works.
It is such a tricky one because you don't have high speed there yet, and you want to be quiet, but you also need to make sure it turns in there. You can see that slight touch on the wall before going into curve 4. Just a little bit too many.
And when we see our German sliders compare and contrast, because they'll allow the sled to rise up 0 and make the turn. If you try and drive away from it and try to avoid hitting it, you're in all sorts of...
There are some different techniques. Yeah. Coaches like different styles, and you just got to figure out as an athlete which one you prefer and where you feel comfortable and where you can carry the most speed that you build up in the start.
Yeah, listen to your coach or watch the line of the person that wins the race. It's not always the same answer. Ying Qing of China then, her advantage over her teammate Wai Mingming was 500s, 700s over current leader Cynthia Appia. And a 5.99 start.
She had the 5th fastest start in the first heat, so really impressive pushing of the Chinese girls. And quiet at the top of the track. A lot of steering there at the beginning of curve 2. And brings it really nicely around curve 3. Good control in curve 4, just the slightest of skids there. A little bit sliding off curve 6 there as well, just avoids the wall going to Kreisel, and you can see her hands there as she drives through Kreisel, touching, pushed away out of curve 9, but a good setup there. And a really nice exit, really uses curve 10 to push her over into curve 11 to have that nice height, early entrance into 12. Touches before the uphill curve 14. Second highest speed, a little bit low there, and just flops it off the end, and Cynthia takes another spot.
So 60.26 slide. Yeah, she was losing ground all the way down to Cynthia Appia, but critically perhaps she is about a quarter of a second ahead of her teammate Wai Mingming. So again, we always talk about the race within the race and often between teammates. Although it may not make any difference to selection or funding or anything else, if you can't beat your own teammate, you're never going to win anything. So there's always that.
So here, her load into the sled, gets her arm in there, has her hands on the steering well before she gets out of the grooves. And here you can see her sliding through the end of curve 11, quite high there at the end. And there you can see her at the exit of curve 14, quite low, coming into our screen, and then has the pressure, which puts her back on the wall.
She finished 9th in the games in China, and her teammate Wai finished in 6th place. But are we seeing her starting to overtake? We'll find out as the season progresses. Next up is Romania's Anja Grecu. We've already seen her young teammate Georgeta Popescu, and you can see the coach Paul Niagu there. Can't think that I've seen a Romanian bobsled in 20+ years of doing this without Paul Niagu involved at some way or another.
She had a really strong push in the first run. Really impressed with 590. Let's see, 591,
she hit the expansion joint between 3 and 4, and basically it stopped her in her tracks and fired her across the track.
It was a really quiet curve 0.
Yep.
Nice in middle.
Well, this is their home track, isn't it? You know, this is where the Romanians consider themselves at home. She avoids that expansion joint.
Really nice looking run so far.
This could really pick her up plenty of speed.
Highest speed, nice flat line through Kreisel. Round exit, middle to curve 8.
She's creeping very slowly away from Cynthia Appia.
Excellent exit there out of curve 9. A little bit high at the end of 11, but pushes her over nicely into 12. Slightest of touches going uphill into 14.
It's going to be a fraction better than Appia in the second run. 3100s up, 59.80. And again, that's more what we expected from...
Very excited coach there.
Yeah. And rightly so. That's much more like it. 59.80 would have seen her in 3rd place in the first heat.
I think this run has her looking into the top 6, maybe.
Yeah. Well, the track is holding up. There's Georgetta in the back.
And really nice to see that all these athletes, they're competing against each other, but this is really a sliding family, and everyone's helping each other, and they're very happy when someone else gets a good result. So.
Yeah, and I don't think that takes away any of the competitive spirit either. It's just really nice to see. Nice high line early in 11.
I think this is also the beauty of the sport, that everyone gets their minute on the track, and it's just you against the track, and you cannot change what a competitor does.
Exactly. Nobody else can ruin your race. It's you, the stopwatch and the mountain. So everybody is in their own private race, and yeah, I think it's like when you watch skateboard or inline or whatever, in the Olympic Games or in any of the X Games, they're all super excited to see how everybody else performs, and that is kind of the spirit here too. What about Bianca Riebe of Canada then? Teammate Cynthia Appia has just been eased out of the leader's box. Ooh, got a lot of corner 0.
Yeah, and just avoids the hard hit on that wall, just the slightest of touches, but stays parallel.
200s over Andrea Grecu in the first heat, so she needs a really good drive. She's never raced here before.
Nice exit there, just slightly avoids that skid. Just touches there on the right side of the Kreisel.
Speed is as good as Cynthia Appia and better than the current leader, Andrea Grecu.
She keeps losing time, a little bit wavy there in the entrance, but gets away with it, just touches the wall going into 11, which you can see her going up, down, into curve 11. Well, you want to have a flat line, but has great speed coming into curve 14 again.
And that will see a clear of Cynthia Appia. No! 100th behind Cynthia Appia, so she drops 2 spots, Bianca Riebe. Well, she won't be overly thrilled with that. 1400 slower than her first heat.
2 Canadian sleds in 2nd and 3rd place, a 2 Chinese sled in 4th and 5th place so far, so we have some tight battles.
Andrea Grecu is holding her head above water in the battle of the Romanians at the moment.
And there we see transition from 8 to 9, just touches there on the inside, which pushes her away, and she has quite a hard steer there in the first wave of curve 9. And there in the exit, she had to work hard, and then it brings her over. And now you can see from a dip in the middle of curve 11, really rising at the exit. Not exactly what she wanted.
Well, six trips down this track in her life in a MonoBob. And this woman, Bree Walker, has rather more than that. Bree has been very successful in MonoBobs right from the start. Now let's see what the Australian can produce here. 6th place after the first heat, and 1500s out of the medals. From here on, medals are up for grabs.
Really running it very far.
Well, her start is always a big part of it. 5.92, again, matches her first start.
And a slight touch on the wall coming out of curve 0, but it stayed parallel, so it won't affect her speed too much.
She knows the track well, she knows these sleds well. Lives a couple of hours away in Frankfurt.
Oh, and there she's just long on curve 4 again, but avoids the tap, and much better entrance into curve 5 than she had in the first heat. Doesn't have the biggest speed though. No,
she only had 600s in hand over Andrea Grecu from the first heat. I don't think this is a medal winning run.
A bit wavy there, yeah. Just a touch there as well.
Greku's going to pick her off, isn't she?
It looks like it. If she can find some speed in the labyrinth, she might bring it back. And that's exactly what she seems to be doing. Going uphill with highest speed.
There you go, 200 in it. Wow.
Very tight.
Yeah, 59.84. So Andrea Greco outdrove her in the second heat, but that first heat advantage just kept Bree Walker's nose in front. So top 6 finish guaranteed for the Aussie.
Yeah, she stayed cool and really found some speed again at the bottom of the track.
Yep. And that's all part of it when you're a driver. You can't even think of the mistakes. You've got to be so far ahead of the sled.
You got to keep thinking forward. Just try to get the next curve right. Try to get the next adjustment right. And here we can see her going into Kreisel. See her steering motions there. You can see a lot of her. She's sitting far back as well.
Yeah. Getting the weight balance in the sled. It's so important to make it drive well. So Bree Walker leads by 200s for Andrea Greco, 5 to go. Final 5 sleds on ice. Race for the Women's MonoBob World Cup here in Winterberg, Germany. And in the final 4, we have 3 German sliders. And final 5, 3 German sliders, an Olympic champion, and the Swiss. So first up for Germany, Kim Kilicki, only the 10th fastest start in the first heat, a 5:02. Let's see if she finds anything extra.
Yeah, 6:03.
6:02 rather, 6:03.
Quiet around curve 0. Nice and middle, going 1 to 2.
Well, she lost 11 hundredths to Bree Walker at the start alone, so she immediately has to fight back from that deficit.
Yeah, but she has a way of finding speed in her sleds, both in two-man and in mono. Can drive it really well.
A wavy from 6 to 7. Good Kreisel. Getting close. She's
nice
level.
Entrance into 8 and into 9. Nice parallel line there. Excellent exit. Nice parallel to 11. Keeps it in one line, no waving there. And even avoids the tap going into curve 14, uphill, highest speed. And dips her head.
So Bree Walker out of the leader's box, and Kim Kilicki is in. There's the coach René Spies.
And it's still Andrea Greco who has the fastest run of this heat.
Yep. Yeah, Andrea Greco a 59.80, 59.82 there for Kim. I do wonder how many race results would be different if the first heat just established a starting order for the second.
Well, that would be a very interesting idea to see how that affects the racing.
Well, Greco would be the leader still on the second heat alone from Kim Kilicki and Bree Walker.
Yeah, maybe we should go like to a Formula One with qualifiers and
Usain Bolt doesn't
heats.
get a 5-step advantage just because he was the fastest qualifier in the 100 meters.
That's true. Big smile there from Kim.
Yeah. Yeah, she's a real threat tomorrow in the women's bobsled, as is this woman, the Olympic champion in women's bob, and our last winner of 3 different winners so far this season. I'm not sure if I've ever seen her quite as happy as when she won the MonoBob race in Lake Placid. Okay, the Olympic gold definitely, but yeah, it was a big moment.
She was really happy with that. She also has the American push style, doesn't fall in like a brakeman does. That pushes it straight from the block.
I think that tends to vary a little. If you started as a brake woman or as a brake athlete, then you tend to have that natural instinct anyway. And if you start as a driver, you end up on the side handle, so it's a bit alien. Building her advantage, 1700s up to 22, best speed of all for Lara Nolte.
And she had the best speed as well in the first heat, so that's really something she does.
And only 1500s off gold in the first heat.
A bit higher in the entrance, but a very good looking exit out of curve 9. Straight lines through 11, 12 and 13. Just steps there.
First mistake. I was just about to say, funnily enough, she's making it look like Winterberg is no problem at all. 59.72, big slide from Lara Nolte. And that is the 3rd fastest trip down the mountain today. We had a 67 and a 7.0 in the first heat. That is the third fastest run. So that's a 10th better than her first heat.
And directly asking for her start time.
Yes.
I'm really interested to know
well, that's
how fast
because when you come up there, you see what your finish time is, but it doesn't give you the start.
Yeah, you can see your position, you can see the finish time and the total time that you slided, but not your push time. So that's something push athletes are very excited to know.
After a month in North America, nice to have the families around here. Lots of families and friends here in Winterberg.
They are 8 and 9. Slightest of touches, pushes her away a little bit, which is why she is high in the beginning there. And then late height out of 13. And the double tap, front bumper and back bumper.
And that's worth at least a 10th because you're just drawing speed out before you head uphill to the finish line. Okay, so Lauren Alter leads our Olympic bobsleigh champion, now our Olympic monobob and world monobob champion, Kaylee Humphries, and two-time Olympic bobsleigh champion. I mean, we've only got 59 seconds. That doesn't give us time to tell you all the things she's won. Let's see what she's got today. Third in the first heat, only 100th ahead of Nolta. Starts faster, so she doubles her lead to 200s.
5.94, fourth fastest start time, but second fastest speed coming out of that curve 0. So she really carried her speed into the sled.
200s up to 200s back for Kaylee Humphries.
And there at the exit of 3, you could really see the little flick on the runners that she did, the steering motion to put her into the middle line going to curve 4.
Now, everybody in this race using the same sleds. They're built by a high-tech manufacturer in Bavaria called Ixent. So everybody uses the same sled, but you have your own choice of runners. And Kaylee, it looks like a good drive, but she's losing time, Anne.
A little bit high there in the end of 11 as well. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, Winterberg really isn't her favorite track. She doesn't feel so comfortable here getting all the speed she could. And that's what you see right now as well.
59.91.
Fastest heat time.
10th slower than her first heat.
And it didn't look like there was anything wrong with that run, but maybe it's just a little bit too much driving, which is not her usual.
Yep.
But as you mentioned, they're all driving the same sleds. They can make adjustments to fit their personal driving style a little bit more, to make it more or less direct, to get the tension on the bungees a little bit different, but they're all from the same manufacturer, so
it does mean that nobody's got an aerodynamic advantage, nobody's got a material advantage. And I think that's actually one of the good things, and quite possibly the way the sport needs to go with 2-man, 4-man and women's bob is more of a universality of equipment. However, that's all for the future. Our top 2 after the first heat were separated by the not significant amount of just 0.03 of a second. Lisa Buchwitz of Germany, currently in second place. She needs to find half the blink of an eye. I don't know how you even think about doing that. You just go out and drive as fast as you can.
She's really digging it again.
Yeah.
Wants to get everything out of her start. 5.82 equal to her push in the first heat. Fastest pusher all season. World push champion.
Yeah, just 400ths off the push start record here set by Alana Myers-Taylor last December. December 21. 3/10 up on Lauren Alter.
Clean drive so far, long on curve 4, and puts her onto the tap and a little skid going into 5.
And that's lost her time and speed, only 7 fastest into the Kreisel.
So it's a matter of keeping all the speed she has left and try to... Ooh, big tap there, and she's low going into 9.
She's gonna have to hang on to that.
Just hangs on and avoids that wall, and big dip and high in the exit of 11. And high there as well, hard hits.
Boy.
She's losing a lot of speed, slowest sled so far.
Goodness me, Lauren Alter leads, and Lisa Buchwitz drops out of the medals. It is Lauren Alter, Kaylee Humphries, Kim Kilicki with 1 to go.
And this is something she will learn with experience. She's in that position to win a gold medal. She's so close to the win. She really wants to look for hundreds, and that's where experience just comes in. And that's where the mistakes started to happen.
Yeah.
Late height, pushes her to 5.
That's the kind of run you want in training and just
Here
get
as
it out
well,
of the system.
Very high at the end of 8. It crosses her over to the wall, pushes her away, and there overdrove it into the entrance of 11, drove herself into the dip.
Wow.
Really high, where you still want to be that parallel middle line.
All right.
It'll come.
No medal this time for Lisa Bukvits. It will come. She is far too good not to be winning things. And so too is Melanie Hassler. Now, she has not had a MonoBob medal this season. 2 4s and a 5th place in North America. There's Chris Woolley. Now, he will have been doing a little bit of mental massage as well as everything else. I think Melanie Hassler is so up for this. I don't think she's got the fear. I think she's going to go and grab it with
she
both
is
hands.
Running it. She is going for it.
What a start.
5.97.
5.97 for
A little bit
Swiss.
quicker than her first heat. And a nice curve 0, taking the speed she had.
She had 1500s over Lara Nolte, the current leader in the first heat. She's got a 10th left. She needs to drive as well as she did in Heat 1 to take this.
And it's looking clean so far. She's bleeding a little bit time, and that's comparison to her start time. She was outstarted, but doesn't have a lot of speed in the sled. Only 13 speed. She is bleeding time. She's bringing it back a little bit, but I think she's losing too much time.
Yeah.
And I don't think she's going to get the medal.
I don't think she's going to get a medal either. She may end up with yet another 4th place finish. It's not gone well in the second heat for Melanie Hassler. Maybe
it doesn't
overdriving.
look like she's making a lot of mistakes,
Yeah.
but just doesn't have the speed.
Just too nervous to try and get it. Doesn't quite roll over the line, but Lara Nolte...
And a big smile there from Lara.
Yeah, having won. That's what it was like in Lake Placid. Now she wins at home in Germany. Kaylee Humphries, silver. Kim Kalicki, the bronze. And Melanie Hassler does not get a 4th place. She is 7th.
7th place. And Andrea Greco actually moved up into the top 6 with that big second heat.
Yeah, Andrea Greco from 8th place up to 6th. And Melanie Hassler
in the middle of curve 11.
Yeah.
Rising there a little bit to push her over into curve 12, and then almost rolls it out of curve 14. And she will be very disappointed with that run.
Yeah, very disappointed. She was so up for that right at the beginning, maybe just a little overexcited on her run. And I guess to a degree, the familiarity of being in that position also helps. You don't get overexcited, you don't get too tense, you don't get too nervy. I mean, Lara Nolte had nothing to lose. She was 4th after the first heat. She was looking to try and improve. That's all, just try and be better.
And she has been in that position to win races a lot of times by now. She knows what it is to come from behind and clean up your run, keep digging at the start, make good drives, good driving decisions, and that's exactly what she did.
Great looking stuff from Lara Nolte, and you know when it's a good run because it just looks like there's nothing going on and it's so easy. Lara Nolte, a winner for the first time in Lake Placid in December, now claims victory here in Winterberg in Germany. That's 2 in 2 races. Kaylee Humphries again on the podium with the silver medal, 100th ahead of Kim Kalicki, and Lisa Bukvits very close indeed, just 400s out of the medals.
And the first medal for Kim.
Yeah, first medal for Kim, you're absolutely right.
MonoBob.
Yeah. Bree Walker in 5th, only 500s out of the medals. It's going to be an entertaining European season in MonoBob. And for the World Championships, you don't just have to do it twice, you've got to do it 4 times on the world's only natural track. That's going to be very entertaining indeed. So there we go. First race in World Cup for Victoria Cernanska and Georgeta Popescu. I'm sure we will see more of them over the years. There's a view you don't often get here in Winterberg, not usually able to see much past the end of the track. Lots of holiday homes and hotels on the hillside, rolling hills behind. Kaylee Humphries continues to extend her lead at the top of the Women's MonoBob World Cup. Lara Nolte now moving up to 2nd, Lisa Bukvits in 3rd, Kim Kalicki closing in 4th ahead of Melanie Hassler. 7th place finish not helping the Swiss slider. So there you go, those are our competitors so far this season.
And the first points for the nations who didn't slide in North America's Cup.
Absolutely right. So
the North American part of the World Cup. Excuse me.
Nice to welcome new athletes. The Youth Olympic champion Georgeta Popescu and silver medalist Victoria Chananska joining the World Cup. And that is it for the women for today. Women's bobsleigh and Advanian House return tomorrow morning. We will start the action then at 10 Central European, 9 Greenwich Mean Time. And don't forget, 2-man bobsleigh this afternoon. Be delighted to welcome Greg Cackett from Team GB into the booth. Let's see who has got the winning runs in the men's competition this afternoon. Till then, from all of us here, Martin Haven saying thank you for joining us. Bye for now.